All right. Hello, everybody. Sorry for the delay. We're about 10 minutes late today. I think this is the latest I've ever started one. Had a crazy morning. What can I say? Lots of work, different things going various degrees of wrong. I mean, it's not like the end of the world kind of wrongness, but just like this took 10 minutes more than I thought it would, and that took 10 minutes more than I thought it would, and here we are being 10 minutes late now, so. Welcome to the stream. I hope you are having a lovely Wednesday. Let me put a little chat message in here. Welcome to the stream. Say hello. Ask your questions. Have fun. Okay. We'll pen that. Pen message. Thank you. Message is penned. This should catch up now. Essentially any day now. Oh, there we go. We're live. I'm going to mute this to make sure there's no weird audio feedback. And that's it. Okay, we are live. So last week, if you either were here or perhaps caught up as a VOD, you know that we used Ableton to make a bunch of samples for circuit, basically a sample pack that filled up most of the memory, left like 10 seconds left. I did mention some ways you can, work with that or whatever. That's one way to work, obviously, is you create everything on a computer, you dump it into the rhythm, and, put your tracks together and whatnot in there. That's totally legit, obviously, totally fine and wonderful way to work if that's what your approach is, if that's what makes sense for you. But if you are not a computer person, maybe you bought this thing with the intent of getting the hell away from your computer. It's a very reasonable reason to want to buy something like this. Obviously, your computer, excuse me. Hey, Swarm, how's it going, man? You did not miss the stream. I started late today, so it's quite the opposite, actually. YouTube's being a little weird with the way that it's allowing me to display this, so forgive me if I don't see a message right away. Forgive me. It's squirrely. It's squirrely. Okay. Anyway, but yeah, if you are not using a computer at all, or maybe you're using a computer but you bought this little thing here so you can get the hell away from a computer, then the kind of stuff we went over last week is maybe not as useful for you. And so this week, by request, although it's a very, very logical thing to do, we will be looking at the... okay, hold on a sec. I'm going to see if I can fix this. Sorry. We'll be looking at the process of recording this... using it standalone, essentially, putting samples directly on it, how that works. And probably work on a little track, too, because, I mean, might as well, right? The best way to show you how to make music on the thing is to make music on the thing, so. Potato, tomato, and cheese bake. That sounds pretty good. I've never made anything like that. Maybe you should send me a recipe. Sounds delightful. Okay. So, last night, while I was getting this ready, I did go ahead and do a little pre-sampling, but we'll redo some of it so you can kind of see how it works, and then we'll get into doing more. I didn't do everything that I wanted to do today, but I did want to try it out so I wasn't coming into this blind, if you will. So let's have a little listen to the demo track that I made last night. This is very simple. It's just a simple bass line, a drum beat, and a lead, and it's all Arturia MicroFreak sampled into here. So here we go. That's basically it. So I think it's like a 4 or 8 bar loop. It's not very long. It's not particularly good. It's got kind of a weird oompa rhythm thing going, which wasn't really intentional. But after I recorded it, I was listening back and I was like, oh yeah, it's kind of like a oompa oompa kind of vibe going on there. Not something I would normally mess with, but you know, whatever, right? Okay, so let's look at the samples. So we are on sample track 1. Let's look at the samples. There we go. And so these all, I loaded up all 16 of these first bank of samples, right? So you have 8 pages of 16 on here. I loaded up one of them. Soviet cartoons. I don't even know any Soviet cartoons. So I'll take that. It's better than like the weird oompa band that I took it almost as, like that, what is it, like German polka music or whatever. Okay, so what I did last night was mostly sample percussion sounds, because I had the idea that like, oh, it might make sense to do an all MicroFreak track, right? Where it's just all samples from MicroFreak. And if we're going to do that, we're going to need a bunch of drum samples. So these are, for the most part, and I'll get into the part that's not the most part, sounds that I had already programmed on here. Oh, you were born in the USSR. I did not know that. I don't know. Has that never come up before? I know you were, I knew you were European, and I had this idea, I think that you were like, I don't know, Latvian or something like that. Like, so some former East Bloc, but I didn't realize you were old enough to be born in the actual Soviet Union. I guess I thought you were a younger guy. Well, that's kind of cool. We should have a side conversation about that at some point. Maybe off in a different different venue. Maybe this is not the right one. I do someday want to have a really super casual hangout, question and answer kind of chat. I don't know, just like a hangout chat. Maybe we'll do a little bit of music sometime. But yeah, no, it hasn't come up before. Okay, but yeah, get back on track. What I did last night is I went through and I sampled all of the drum sounds that I have made in this, and this is what we got from that. Okay, so I'm just going to play the drum sounds that I did last night. I'm going to play all the samples I made last night, and we'll resample some of them. I don't mean use the resample function, although we might do that. But we will get the sampler out, and not get the sampler out, get the we'll pull up the percussion things and just make some more samples is what we'll do. But let's look at what I did last night. Okay, so these are all drum sounds made by the MicroFreak. And then this here is going to be, that's the bass that we used in that sound. And there is the lead that we used for that sound. So that's it. That's the sounds that I made last night. And these are mostly just samples of drum sounds that I had made in here. But this one, this one, and I think that one, and this one, I made on the fly, and we'll get into that a little bit too. Yeah, so I will sample some more drum sounds. I guess I could, let's just start with that actually. So I suspect that that's very quiet. Like you might not be able to hear it at all. Unfortunately, there's not much I can do about that because the issue here is that the output of the MicroFreak is pretty quiet. And because of that, it can be pretty difficult, I assume, to hear this on the other end. But I could turn up the inputs if it was going directly into the interface, but it's not. It's going into the sampler and then through the sampler and then into the interface. So what's going to happen is, oh, maybe actually, you know what? Hold on a second. I think I have a solution. Talk myself through it. Hold on. I'm going to look at the back of my head for a minute here. Let's go ahead and oh, no, actually, I don't know if this will work or not. I don't know if it will. Okay. I'm going to blast your eardrums out here for a second, so hold on. Actually, let's not blast anything. Yeah, that's the problem is this turns down as well, so I can't really. Yeah, okay, that's what I thought was going to happen, but it was worth a shot. So I can't really get the. I can't get the synth any louder without overloading everything that comes out of the sampler. So I apologize, but that's okay because we're really looking at the sampler and not so much the synth. We've done videos on the MicroFreak. We'll do more videos on the MicroFreak in the future, but right now we're actually really looking at the circuit. So forgive me for the handicap. I don't have like a DI box or anything like that it boosts the signal up. So we're just gonna have to live with it as it is. I could probably figure something out, but it's not worth the effort. Okay, so let's. Okay, so these are all empty. You see, I push the buttons, no samples, right? Okay, so let's go into the sample record. Oh, okay, so one of the things is I had the pad on. That's better, right? Okay, so this is on threshold recording. That's what we want. Pads off. What is that? Oh, boy. Hold on, I gotta look at the manual really quick. I did look at this last night. I'm not completely unprepared. I just have ADHD and I can't remember shit. So, sorry, this really will just take a second. I just got to look at the manual to remind myself what these buttons do. To be completely fair, in the question of am I wasting your time, I did think about doing this last night, and then I kind of fucking bailed on it because I was tired, and I was just like, I will figure it out tomorrow. Okay, samples, sampling, there we go. Attenuator on, off, resample, on, off, resample. Okay, so this should not be resampling. Input monitoring is on. Monitoring on, monitoring on. Okay, so monitoring on, resample, off, threshold, attenuator off, threshold on. Okay, yep. Yay! Okay, I think I got it. Okay. So hit. That's it. That's all there is to it. That's how easy it is. Yeah, that would be good if I had a mixer on my desk. So I did have the attenuation pad on, which was making a difference. That was like a 12 dB cut. So hopefully this is a lot closer to what I was. It's still louder on the circuit because it normalizes it. I wonder if I need to. There we go. Okay, and so that was a trim operation, okay? I just moved the length back until there was a tiny little click at the end. I don't know if you could hear that. And I just moved that back to remove the click. I moved the length. That's what length, right? So yeah, so once you sample it into a pad, then you can edit the start and length and save those options. And this does something too, and I can't remember what it does off the top of my head. Right. Okay. Anyway, I did want to just show you like how easy the drums were, for example. All right. But now let's get in a little more to the sort of the meat, if you will. All right. So last week, what I had done was I made a bunch of chords on the in Ableton, and then recorded them and put them in here for various transposition, and that's one way to do it. And I've actually figured out a way to do it a little simpler, so maybe there's a follow-up to be done. This is kind of a learning process for me too, so I hope you enjoy learning with me. Right now I'm just looking for a good there we go. A good chord sound, right? Let's say we're doing like, let's say we're in E minor, just arbitrarily, right? And that are, we're going to make some chords in E minor that we're going to use for, potentially a track, right? All right, so that's an E minor. That's an E minor chord. So we got it on the thing. Say 1, 2, 3. And see how easy that is? And then so for our second chord, and we would probably want to make that a gated sound, right? Okay. Our next sound, we would probably want so this would be our second chord, right? Sorry, there's a lot of flashing lights and buttons. I get easily distracted. Our second chord, so we started with an E minor chord. Let's go E, F, G, A, B. Let's go with a B minor chord, right? So that's going to be B. Okay, so put that on here, hit record. Okay. Okay, and then maybe we'll finish the progression with, let's do some kind of major chord. The D major chord, okay? So it's going to be D. Yeah. Okay, so I'll put that on here. There you go. So you could, now if you weren't sure what kind of chords you wanted for a song, you could sample all of the chords, all 6 chords from that scale, or all 7 really. I mean, that is the advantage of doing it this way, is you could put in the diminished chords that are annoying to do if you're trying to use a chord pack or whatever. And then you have the option to, or not the option, but when you're doing it this way, obviously you can, I mean, you can do whatever you want. You can load in just exactly the chords you know you need. Suppose you've already written the song, maybe you have a demo that you're working from, or you're working to a prompt or something like that. And so you already know what chords you're going to use. You can just record those chords directly in there. You can even record them exactly as you're going to need them. And if you're not sure, then you can, let's go to 2 here. Oh, actually, let's go to 3, 4, sorry, I mean go to 3, 4, 5. Actually, you know what we're going to do is we're going to go to a new project. New project. Okay, so sample 1, right? And go down here. I'm going to sample mode. We'll set them as gated. Put some, oops, put some little bit of decay on it so that it fades and it's gated. The further you go this way, the more it's gonna, you just wanted a little blip. And if you go the other way, you get both a slope on the attack and a decay, right? And then you can do filter, all these other controls as well. But we're just going to put a little bit of decay. Oops. And then we could, all right, let's say we'll do this. So we'll have, okay, so yeah. There we go. And go to the second page. I'm going to go. Oops, not that one. We'll go that one, then that one. Nope. Okay, so, well, acknowledging that that's not a particularly exciting chord progression, I think as an example of what you can do and how quickly you can work if you know what you're after, it serves well enough, right? Let's see, where are we at here? What's our tempo? Is 90. That seems low. Let's just go up to like... Take that and knock it down. Okay, so yeah, not to get too lost in the sauce there, I'm just kind of trying to show how quickly something can come together once you have some ideas. Let's look at sampling. So sampled a bass and a lead. Let's go ahead and sample another one just so you can kind of see what that looks like. Okay. Okay, so there's our open sample. Go to the sample record. Excuse me. Let's find another bass. There we go. Okay. Okay, that did not come out quite like I expected. So let's try it again. That's what I expected. Okay. Cool. So let's go back here to the sample. Sample mode, make it gated. Just a tiny bit of delay again. Turns out that's just kind of a good. Okay, so let's do. Okay, note. Not that. Go down an octave. Do do do. I don't even remember. Okay, so and then I did a B, right? I don't even know where my notes are. I'm an idiot. And then a B, and then go into this second one, and we'll put in. I put in like the, and then we'll put in. Oh, I guess we already have. I already put in a bass line, so I probably don't need a second one. Never mind. You know, Swarm of Dead Insects, since you bring it up, I'm going to take a minute to comment on this. For good or for ill, in my earlier... Okay, sorry. Let me compose this thought. I started doing music when I was 19 years old. I'm now in my 50s. That was in 1992 when I was 19. You can do the math and figure out exactly where I am in my 50s if you care. And I had a lot of friction. That's probably the best word for it. Getting started. I did make a bunch of music when I was 19, into my 20s, and then even into my 30s and whatnot. There's probably an album or maybe two worth of material out there that I created in that amount of time. But I was never really fully happy with it. And in part, it's because I was always trying to make something that someone else thought I should make. So I was trying to match like genre requirements, like, oh, I'm gonna make ambient, or for example, in the early aughts, I was super into house music. I'm still super into house music. I love house music. House music is bae, but in the early aughts when I was doing music then, and so that was in my early or late 20s, early 30s. I decided, well, I should make house music. That's what I'm listening to. That's what I'm into. That's what I love. And all my house music came out sounding like ass because I couldn't, because I was just doing things that didn't really work in house music, and you know, I had done the same with ambient, and my ambient was cluttered and messy, and I did this and that genre or whatever. And then when I started making music this most recent time, that was in 2019. I had taken a hiatus for a number of years before that. I hadn't really done jack shit, and I started up in 2019 and making music, and decided at that point that I was not going to take advice or counsel from anyone. That I was just going to make the music that I wanted to make. That I wasn't going to worry about genre or form or whatever. I was just going to follow my instincts, and that worked out really, really well for me. And what it actually helped me discover is that the problem I was having with all that other stuff, with the house music and all this, is that I have a really, really, really strong, like crazy, overweening strong sense of aesthetics, and the way things, that when I'm making decisions, it's not even like they fall into the same categories, but they tend to have similar results. I like what I like, I guess is maybe a way to put it. And so everything I do just does tend to sound like me. Yes. It's, you know, and it doesn't hurt that I've designed, like, these are all my sounds. Every sound that you've heard on this synthesizer is one that I designed. So yeah, it's not that surprising, right? That I did that. That's me. I wonder if I can switch this from that to that. Oh, I can. So that's the new bass. I took it as a compliment. I certainly did not mean that as any sort of anything other than a compliment. So I took it as a compliment. No worries there. It is a compliment. I think I have a very distinctive style, and if you don't like it, that's obviously totally fine. It's not for everyone. It's pretty out there. Actually, it would probably be more accurate to say it's for fewer people than it is for not. So I don't begrudge anyone their desire or their need to. I don't begrudge it if someone doesn't like what I do. I don't begrudge them, because what I do is, it's out on a fringe. I understand that it's very distinctive for what it is, and it doesn't necessarily meet your listening needs. Maybe not even your ideas of what constitutes music. Like, I get a lot of 5-second listens on my Bandcamp. Not an undue amount, but a fair amount. And I think that's fair. I think that a lot of my music you can listen to 5 seconds of and be like, oh yeah, no, that's not for me. That's not what I want. Okay, I have no idea about the reference you're making, so you're going to have to send me a link to that. I have no idea what you're talking about, Mr. Lovenstein. Cody, I don't know. But yes, anyway, I do sound like I sound. There's no escaping that. So thank you. Take that as a compliment. Okay, so let's get back on track here. So what other kind of things do you guys have? Y'all, sorry, not you guys. I'm sure that there are some people of non-guy gender in here, and despite the way I grew up, I understand that guy is not, in fact, gender neutral. So I apologize. If any of you good folk would like to hear a kind of sound, like we could sample some weird effects in, for example. Okay, so there we go. Like maybe this. Here's a bell. we could use a bell sound, right? Okay, so go there, and we'll just go. So one interesting thing is that the circuit normalizes all your samples, which is pretty convenient, honestly. It saves you from having to match the levels too much on the stuff you're sampling. But it does mean if you sample something that's kind of lower and has a noise floor, you're going to get noise in it. So we will save that. So when you're sampling, if you're sampling something that's pitched, super sosh for the bass. Yeah, let me see what I got. I'm sure I have some kind of super. Actually, you know what? Let's just make a super saw bass. We can do that. It's pretty easy. I'm sure I have a super saw bass on here, but rather than trying to like try and find it, let's just make one. Let's just make one. Okay, so basic super wave. Envelope. Our super saws like to be sustained. And let's see, what are our controls for super saw? Detune and volume, right, okay. So we'll put a slow LFO on the timbre, and that'll give us some variable detuning. See how that sounds. If it sounds too wonky, we'll take it off. Not too bad. I'm going to use that same LFO on the filter because, but I'm going to do it as a minus. What is going on with that? Yeah, I'm not going to mess with too many performance controls because obviously we're making this for sampling, so the performance controls aren't going to make it in anyway. So I actually think that's pretty good for our basis of our bass. So we'll do this. There you go. And then let's do this. It's gated, perfect. Oops, I want the slope. Perfect. And then we're going to go to, okay, so baseline is here. No, it's there. Okay, so down. what did I do wrong? What? There we go. You can tweak the timbres a little bit too with the filters, various filters, distortions and whatnot, if you're not quite happy with the way your sample sounds. Although again, it's a sampler, you should probably try and get, relatively close. This is not a sampler to do a ton of mangling once you've sampled. You can do some pretty cool stuff with the resampling and stuff. I should maybe... I don't believe YouTube chat allows links. My belief is it does not, which is a shame. Yeah, thank you. A pretty good sound, right? Okay, let's put in some just weird random fucking just little weird hits and stuff like that. What is this? There we go. This is something I actually used in a something I used in a track a while. Oh, here we go. This is another fun one. So you might notice that I always sample it on C if it's got a pitch. Okay, so this puts everything, all samples when you play them with the keyboard. So when it transposes them, it assumes everything is at C. So it puts the root pitch on the C, and then you transpose up and down from there. So that's why I sample everything at C for simplicity sake. Unless I'm sampling like a specific chord that I want for a song, for example, and I'm like E minor or whatever, blah, blah, blah. But when I'm sampling generic chords, I'm going to sample them with the root note of C. If I'm sampling a generic sound that I might want to transpose up or down, I'm going to sample it at C. I'm going to not sample it at C if I want the specific pitch in the song, and I'm not going to transpose it. Or if it's kind of a non-pitched sound, like drum or percussion sounds, they have a pitched element frequently, but they are not perceived as pitched as a general rule, in part because there's frequently so many different things going on, noise and multiple frequencies that don't match the pitch, any sort of fundamental pitch of a musical note that we would recognize, maybe even multiple tones at similar volumes or whatever, frequency spikes all over the place. So they don't register to our ears as... yeah, no, there's no link showed up. You'll have to message it to me via Mastodon or Blue Sky or something. You might be able to leave it as a comment. I'm not sure about that, and then I can see it. But I can't see it in the chat for sure. But yeah, so if you sample everything at C, then when you want to use the keyboard to transpose it up and down, it'll work. So in this case, I've sampled all the like weird synth sounds at C. The chords I did not sample at C because I was intending on using those actual chords and not transposing them around. You might want to make notes for yourself if you're doing this. Both the advantage and disadvantage of this unit is that there's no... you don't have to name your samples. Not only do you not have to, you cannot name your samples in here. You can name them on the computer, but anything you record on here is, I think they just get a number. You So the downside of that is it's harder to organize, but the upside of that is when you're in the flow, when you're actually working on something, you don't have to fucking what we'll call this metal hit 7 because I think I have 6 other ones. You don't have to fuck with any of that. It just you slam it in there. You don't have to normalize it. You don't even have to trim it or whatever if you did a good job with your sample. But maybe 2 seconds to just trim it up and then it's saved and you're on. And it's a really nice. It makes for a really nice, very fast, very easy workflow. But of course, the downside is when you then load all your samples back onto your computer for processing, or when you're pulling up a project 3 months later and you're like, what chord is that? Although if you're good at identifying chords by ear, maybe that's not an issue for you. For me, I'll be like, what chord is that? I don't know what that. Maybe I'll fuck around. Oh, it sounds like it was an E minor chord. Oh, okay, I see what I was doing. But yeah, so any individual note, I would sample at C. I'm just grabbing some effects here, is what I'm doing. There's one in particular I'm looking for. Hold on. This isn't it. I will say, I love the MicroFreak. There's a reason I chose this one. So let's talk a little bit while I'm looking for this stupid thing I want to sample. Let's talk about companions for the, here we go. There you go. Now you can, when I want to make a song about evil, I've got my 666 sample. I think that the MicroFreak, for example, is an excellent companion. And here's some of the reasons why. It's mono, and this takes mono samples, so you're not losing anything. This doesn't have effects, but if you sample it into here, you can use the reverb and delay on the thing. And even if you're just running it into there, you can't use the reverb and delay, which is kind of obnoxious. I really wish that you could, but you can use the grid effects. And so the grid effects are like... See what I mean? You can use the grid effects. You can't use, unfortunately, can't use the delay and reverb on this going through, but you can use this. Once, for example, I sampled those chords, I put reverb and delay on those. Solves the problem of this not having effects. Yeah, Iron Maiden. I'm sure they're very jealous of my 666. Maybe they can work out a licensing plan with me. It does occur to me that. I was going to hold up my phone, but this is my phone right here. It's actually acting as the camera that we're using. Your phone is probably an excellent companion to the circuit rhythm. Even on Android phones, there's some little synthesizer apps and stuff. They're not very usable in terms of trying to make a whole song or anything. But if you had the circuit, you could just like make some chords, sample those onto here, pull off some samples off YouTube, put those onto here. If you actually have a headphone out, you just need a cable. Otherwise, if you don't have a headphone out, you need a cable and a dongle. Yeah, an iPad would be an excellent companion. Although, again, then you start to get into the like, well, but do you even need this thing if you've got the iPad? I have an iPad that I bought for music that I have mostly abandoned because I just don't really like working on the iPad. It's as simple as that. I don't mind watching a movie on the iPad or, doing some light web scrolling. I've had some luck doing a little bit of sound design and stuff on it, but I just don't ever feel great about it. It just doesn't feel. It's not a way that has been conducive for me to work. There are some really cool apps on it, but that's why, for me, it would make more sense to be a companion. I've taken all those music apps. I can then sample them onto here. But if you are getting started and you are intrigued about the circuit, or maybe you already have one, maybe this is what you started with, adding adding a powerful synthesizer like this one to your mix can really unlock the instrument for you. Arguably these two things right here, this is all you need. Like, you can absolutely make full tracks on this without bringing anything else into the mix. Yeah, right. The issue with the Android apps is that they don't have. Okay, so the reason Android apps are kind of ass is that they do not have OS level prioritization for audio events, basically. So your timing gets all fucked up on anything that's particularly complex because it can be interrupted by literally anything in the OS. So for screwing around, the apps are fine, but there's no serious apps on it because, anytime you get an alert on your phone or whatever, it throws it off, or if your phone needs to load something from, whatever memory spot, or it just fucks everything up. Yeah, I have Caustic. Yeah, it's kind of like a really janky version of old Reason or whatever is what it's like. But it might be a good match for someone like me, maybe, who bought an iPad to do music on and found out, I don't like working on an iPad, but I have a bunch of music apps on the iPad, so I could make little loops on there, just, whatever my tolerance level is, and then sample them into this, this thing's super fun to play with. Like, every time I sit down to play with it, and you probably noticed, because I kind of got lost in the sauce, I make a little track every time. If I fire this up, there's almost a 0% chance that I'm not going to come out of it with some kind of a demo, essentially, out of it, right? I guess this is today's demo. Between the beat, the grid effects, and just the design of it, I just love the circuit platform. I'm a big fan. The original circuit was sort of one of my gateway drugs to when I was getting back into music this most recent time in 2019. I really rinsed the hell out of that thing. Okay, so yeah, it sure is capable of it. And I've made a half a dozen tracks on the iPad standalone. And I've done it, in a couple sketches that got exported out and turned into something later, or at least tried to turn into something later. But I've had the iPad since early 2020. I bought it right before COVID because at that point, I traveled 6 or 8 times a year for various reasons. And then I bought it, and then a month later, or less than a month later, COVID descended upon us, and I didn't do much traveling after that. I've traveled twice since then. Yeah. So yeah. Hi, Amy. How's it going? You have kind of come in at the very end of our stream, but if you have any questions, you want to hear our song? So that's what we worked on. We made a bunch of samples. Here, let's do this. So most of these I actually sampled last night, but we did make these samples today. Yeah, no worries, Amy. The good news is it's available as VOD, so you can just you can start it over from the beginning as soon as I hit stop here, or you could even rewind it now and start watching from there since you know that you're at the end, and catch up on it. Hopefully, it'd be interesting, useful to you. Or if you have questions, we can sort those out now. I can answer any questions you have. But yeah, I do really think that if you are getting started with this stuff, that this is a pretty good intro piece. I kind of want to do a piece on this next, so when I got started with music in 1992, I really I had a pretty strong idea even then about what I wanted to make, but unfortunately, I couldn't afford it. I couldn't afford to buy the gear I needed to make what I wanted to make at that point. And it was pretty heavily sample-based music, based in sort of wax tracks, industrial. And then, as I started making music, I got into ambient and a bunch of different electronic stuff, and my interest sort of expanded, for the best. But I am very curious, if this thing was available for a reasonable price. Now, I paid $200 for this, and that's obviously in 1992. Regional price for this would have been something more like $2,000. But honestly, even if this was like $1,000 or $1,200 was available for $1,000 or $1,200 when I was just getting started, I probably would have bought it. That's probably what I would have went for. It's got everything sort of in the box. So I'm kind of curious if I can make the music I intended to make in 1992 when I started making music on this silly thing. So I was kind of tempted to make something like that, but we'll see if I actually do that or not. But yeah, it is a really good piece, and this is an excellent synth too for getting started. Because even though it's the downside against it, if you're getting started, is that it's very complex. There's all the different engines are fairly complex, and trying to wrap your head around all that when you're just getting started can be a lot. But the flip side of that is this is a very lenticular and granular synth, meaning you can tackle everything in. Okay, so by lenticular, I mean if you look at it in one way, it looks like one thing, and if you look at it another way, it's another thing. That's like those covers that you move, and there's one image this way and then another image that way. So when you start, it looks like a fairly straightforward, mostly subtractive synth with some variety in the engines, right? And then as you get better and you learn what all the engines, the differences, and the different kind of synthesis and what you can achieve with the different engines, it starts to look more like this crazy, super deep hybrid digital with tons of control and whatever. And so that's that lenticular, right? It looks really. Yeah, thanks, Swarm. Thanks for the vote of confidence. I will take that into consideration when I'm deciding if I actually want to make that series. But yeah, it can kind of ease you into the deeper realms of synthesis, because when you start with it, you can, hell, you could stick with the first engine, the Basic Waves engine, and just use this as a analog style subtractive VA synthesizer with a real filter, real analog filter, and spend 3 months or 6 months or a year or whatever it takes you to get comfortable until you feel like you've mastered that, and then without spending an extra dollar, you also then have 20 other engines that can do entirely different kinds of synthesis, and you're already hitting the ground. You're fully understanding what's going on. So, good stuff. Well, this is we are now to an hour. We started 10 minutes late, and it's now 10 minutes after we should technically be done. So I guess I'm going to wrap this up. I want to thank everyone who came by for coming, hanging out. If you are not subscribed, consider hitting the button. It doesn't really change your life much, but I like to see the number go up, and also YouTube gives me better visibility if I have more subscribers. Like if I get to 10,000 subscribers, way more people will see my content than when I have 300. So that's kind of why I care about the numbers. But no obligation. You could throw me a like too if you wanted to do that. Leave a comment, whatever. All these things help. I wish they didn't. I will see you all again next week. Same time, same channel, yada yada. Keep talking about maybe doing an extra stream on a Saturday, Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, but I haven't done it yet. But maybe. maybe that'll happen. And yeah, as always, if you do have questions, oh, let me pitch my sample pack too. It's in the my God, I cannot think. It's in the description. The link is in the description. If you just scroll down, you'll see the link. It's in my Ko-Fi shop. It's free. Pay what you want for supporters. If you've never given me any money for anything or done anything else to support me, maybe do something before you download it. Give me a retweet of a post, or even write something and post one of my things. Hell, just download it and be like, oh, I downloaded this cool sample pack, and shoot a link to it out on the thing. Maybe someone will also give me $1 for it. Any sort of support at all is welcome. It does not have to be monetary. That's just the easiest way. If you just want to put $1 in the jar and grab it and play with it on your circuit. And if there's a video you'd like to see, hey, can you show me what sampling off the modular looks like on this thing? Or what about if you ran the MicroFreak through the Soma Cosmos that you have? Something like that, let me know, and I'll do that for you. By the way, MicroFreak through Soma Cosmos is freaking incredible. I've lost several evenings to that already. But yeah, okay, that's it. I'm rambled enough. I'm all done. Thank you so much, everybody,